It's Wednesday, and that means the new CFP college football playoff rankings have dropped, and our Miami Hurricanes have jumped up 2 spots in the rankings from number 15 to number 13. Here is the official rankings right here. As you see, Miami jumped Vanderbilt, despite Vanderbilt being on a bye week, which should have been the case in last week, because Vanderbilt has no impressive wins. They just went to overtime with Auburn, but that's besides the point. Utah BYU stays in front of them. Another major move, another major shift in the rankings was Alabama to number 10 and Oklahoma to number 8 after Oklahoma beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And Notre Dame stays at 9 despite a very, very impressive win over Pittsburgh. I mean, they must have taken into account Pat Narduzzi's saying of they're not even going to try, basically. Oregon 7, Ole Miss 6, 5, Texas Tech, 4, Georgia, 3, Texas A&M, 2, Indiana, and 1, still Ohio State. Oh, and also Texas drops 7 spots after that terrible loss to Georgia. So they're 17. The Miami Hurricanes, and even on the panel said that Texas doesn't really look like they're going to be considered, even if they beat Texas A&M, because they're so far. They dropped 7 spots, which is a lot. So we don't really have to worry about Texas. The one team I am worried about that is behind us is USC, because they play Oregon, and they beat Oregon. They're going to be in the playoffs, obviously. And then Oregon, where does Oregon stand after that? Do they go to 15, or does Oregon stay in front of Miami? That's concerning, honestly, the USC-Oregon matchup. But we're here to talk about the Canes and what they can control. The only thing they can control is winning out, of course. But what they need to happen besides winning out dominantly, because dominantly matters, because the committee has taken into account just how good this Canes team has looked. Smoking Syracuse, smoking NC State, an NC State team that beat Georgia Tech and beat UVA, 2 ranked teams, as you see here. So that's also very, very key, is winning in dominant fashion. And the committee has shown that if you win dominantly, they will reward Miami, and they will jump up over teams that didn't even do anything. You know, they jumped them over Vanderbilt, didn't or have a loss in between this week and last week because they were on a bye, and even jumped over Georgia Tech 2 weeks ago when they were on a bye. So the committee is willing to jump Miami over these teams. I'm surprised they jumped them over Vanderbilt, all that SEC bias, you know. Vanderbilt went against Alabama. They beat LSU. They're still good. No. Vanderbilt's not that good. They have no good ranked wins. Simple as that. But also, so importantly, what I would need Miami to do is get into that 11 spot. Because the committee said, or the panel said, after the rankings came out, that Notre Dame seems stuck at 9. They're not going to really go anywhere above 9 unless some action happens in front of them, because that Miami loss is weighing them down. And if Miami were to pull within 11, which I think they can do with 2 dominant wins, even if BYU and Utah went out, I don't know how Utah's still ranked in front of them. That's a whole nother story. But if Miami were to jump to 11, that means then that cluster of 3, that they have this little rule with the committee that if you're within 3, they compare you to the teams around you. You know, so you have to be within 3 of the team to be compared to them. So in this case, if Miami was to go to rank number 11 and Notre Dame was to stay stagnant at number 9 after this week even, or any time, then they would be able to compare Miami to Notre Dame, and that head-to-head would finally carry the weight that it should, even though this shouldn't even be the case. But that head-to-head will finally carry the weight that it should, and we'll be able to get the comparison of ND and Miami, which Miami should absolutely jump them in that case, which that's great. So I'm shooting now. I think we should shoot for 11 is good. Of course, we want to get to 10 to guarantee that spot. But if we get to within 11, there's lots of hope, and we need some things to happen in front of us, obviously, to get to 11. We also do need that USC loss, in my opinion, because I don't know how the committee would treat Oregon, even though I think Oregon's not that good either, because they don't have any good wins, really. You know, they almost lost to Penn State, and Penn State has proven themselves through the season to be awful. But most importantly, the 2 people in front of us that are holding us out of that top 10, or the 3 teams in front of us that are holding out of that top 10, is 12 Utah, 11 BYU, and 10 Alabama. Alabama has some shitter FCS team on the schedule this week, but they do have Auburn in a night game, which is, of course, going to be intense and close, but I still think they're going to smack Auburn. Auburn is not good. Their coach is fired. They're playing on an interim. I mean, maybe that can give you a boost in such a big rivalry game. But I don't think Alabama's moving out of that 10th spot unless they put up an absolute stinker and even lose to Auburn. It's really that Georgia win that's holding them up. I think Miami should technically be ranked over them, but that Georgia win is really, really nice, and Georgia has proven themselves to be a really, really good team. So I can't really complain about the Alabama ranking, despite them having a common opponent in FSU that Miami absolutely handled, and Alabama got absolutely handled by. But as we said, Utah and BYU. So BYU plays Cincinnati this week. So that's like, out of Utah and BYU, they both have 2 games remaining. That's the hardest game for both of those teams. That's the hardest team on any of those teams to schedule. Cincinnati, 7-3 Cincinnati. And so BYU is the most likely one to lose, if you want to say it that way, with the teams that are playing, the quality of teams they're playing. And they're only 2.5-point favorites on the road at Cincinnati. So BYU hopefully can be on upset alert this week. But the problem with BYU is if they lose to Cincinnati, 11-12 is BYU and Utah, and BYU's big win is over Utah. So if BYU goes 9-2 and Utah also goes 9-2 this week, how do they rank those teams? Like, do they give them one? Did they give BYU the Miami treatment and put them away? But if you put them within 3 spots, they're compared to each other, and they should be over them because of the head-to-head. So the committee also has a mess going on in front of Miami, which is not good. Not good, because there could be a world where both of those teams either drop, even though Utah wins and BYU loses, or both of those teams can stay stagnant. I have no clue what they will do, but we just hope for both of them to lose. BYU has Cincinnati. The next week they have a terrible, terrible UCF team. And then Utah, on the other hand, who absolutely has no impressive wins, but I'm not here to complain about that. They have Kansas State, who's been awful. They were just in a close game with Oklahoma State. And they have Kansas. So Kansas could be tough with Jalen Daniels, but I mean, those are 2 very winnable games. But anything can happen in the Big 12. Anything can happen in college football. You never know. But the main thing that I say that Miami has to do is win out, and in dominant fashion. Pittsburgh is going to be looking to fight their way still into the ACC championship, especially if they win this week against Georgia Tech. So that would still be a really good game, and it'll be a tough game because Pittsburgh's nothing to laugh at when they're actually trying, apparently. So the main thing for Miami is win out, win convincingly, and you see the committee is willing to reward you for winning convincingly and put you over teams that either won or were idle, etc. So if we win convincingly, we just need to jump Utah and BYU. In my opinion, we just need to jump Utah and BYU, and we'll be able to be compared to Notre Dame, where we should jump Notre Dame in that situation. I don't care. Notre Dame has Stanford left on the schedule. They have another shitbag team left on the schedule. Miami, I believe, has a strong chance to make this CFP playoffs if they win out and win convincingly. It starts with Virginia Tech this week at Virginia Tech, which could be scary because they have a little James Franklin boost running through their campus. James Franklin just got announced as the hire today. It's not like he's going to be coaching or anything, of course, but there's still a little boost of excitement within the fans and everybody. Maybe he'll get introduced at the game. I don't know. So that could be a little scary. And then Pitt is still a decent team, and that 2017 game still haunts every Hurricanes fan. So other than that, Miami needs to control their own destiny first, focus on beating these teams like they have the last 2 weeks, and we still want to hope for some chaos in front of us. I mean, you can also say there are some chaos games. It's, rivalry week is in 2 weeks, so of course you got Alabama, Auburn, who you hope Auburn gets the upset. You hope Mississippi State beats Ole Miss. And also Oklahoma, number 8. Sneaky, like everybody's talking about Oklahoma being so good and how they're probably going to be in the CFP. Sneaky, tough 2 matchups. They play number 23 ranked or 22 ranked Missouri next week, which is still a tough team. Eli Drinkwitz and them. They're a 7-3 team. They're pretty good. And they have LSU, who just got a win over Arkansas on the interim coach with their new quarterback, Van Buren. So those are still 2 decently tough teams. Maybe Missouri definitely more than LSU. So hopefully Oklahoma, even though they're at home for both of those games, could be on upset alert and can't get upset. At least I think by Missouri. Missouri, they're missing Bro Pabula still, but they still have that running back Hardy, who's been incredible. Ahmed Hardy, I think he went crazy last week, didn't he not? Yeah, he had 300 yards last week against Mississippi State. So hopefully he can carry Missouri to a victory, and we don't have to even worry about Oklahoma. That's another spot Miami can jump up in their quest to number 10. Other than that, new CFP dropped. encouraging movement, encouraging progression by the Canes, but we're still not there yet. Job's not finished, and we still have to hope for some things to happen. Let's go Canes.